Hello, my name is Ian, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I was looking at some of the discourse surrounding the new Opeth record, The Last Will and Testament, specifically on Reddit, and I saw two kind of interesting things happening. The first one is a lot of Opeth fans are entering into Tull groups and saying, okay, what Tull records would you recommend to me? And then the opposite is also happening. JETHRO TULL fans are saying, okay, what Opeth records would you recommend I get into? So I thought I would take the chance to record a super short and sweet video, hopefully, with a couple of recommendations from each. So if you are a Opeth fan, and you're looking for a place to start with JETHRO TULL, two really good records to listen to are Thick as a Brick and A Passion Play. Simply because these are long-winded and dynamic concept albums with obscure and unintelligible lyrics. This very much reminds me of the Last Will and Testament record, at least on paper. A second choice would be the 1979 album Stormwatch. Now, this album is a little less beloved. Some fans love it, some fans not so much. But it is an album that the members of Opeth have stated in interviews that they love, specifically two songs, Dark Ages and also Dun Ringel, which they very blatantly, openly homaged on the Sorceress record with the song Will of the Wisp. A third album that you might check out is Heavy Horses. This album is more folk than hard rock, perhaps, but it's simply a masterpiece and one of the greatest examples of a JETHRO TULL record. I would maybe put this in terms of mood next to an album like Pale Communion a little bit. My fourth choice is another twofer. I would recommend Stand Up and Benefit to Opeth fans, simply because I think this is the closest Tull have come to making stoner rock music. Songs like To Cry You a Song off of Benefit and A New Day Yesterday. Plus, as an added bonus, Michael from Opeth has been photographed wearing a stand-up shirt fairly often. So I think that's a safe bet for those of you just getting into Tull. And finally, I would recommend Minstrel in the Gallery. Like Stormwatch, this is an album that's defined by alternating between hard rock influences and softer acoustic numbers. But I would say that this is the case with Minstrel in the Gallery more than any other Tull record, except for maybe Aqualung. And something about that dynamism of hard rock and softer numbers kind of makes me think of Damnation and Deliverance, the way those two records work on an aesthetic level. It's sort of like if you combine those two records together, you get something like Minstrel in the Gallery. Those are some choices for Opeth fans who've never heard JETHRO TULL. Remember, JETHRO TULL are a very diverse band. Sometimes they approach riffy material that's close to heavy metal, but they can be very much all over the place, and that's their charm for people like me. Okay, so you're a JETHRO TULL fan, and you love the new record from Opeth, The Last Will and Testament, and you'd like some recommendations for Opeth records to listen to. Now, I caution you that Opeth are fond of death metal growling vocals, what many of a certain age describe as Cookie Monster vocals. I hear it as more of like a guttural performative thing, very theatrical. Like there's certain like European directors, somebody like Zulawski, who was fond of very histrionic performances, an expression that comes from the gut, and that's what the growl is to me. So these five Opeth records that I'm going to recommend, I will tell you which ones have the growls and which ones are kind of easy to get into if you're not used to that sort of thing yet. So number 1 is Damnation. This was a record that was produced by Steven Wilson and also mixed by Steven Wilson. If you're a Jethro Tull fan, you'll be aware that Steven has worked with Jethro Tull's classic albums, remixing them for 5.1 surround sound. So I feel like texturally this is a good place to start. There's no growls on it. It's kind of an acoustic-based album, so it's very gentle and rather bewitching. The second choice would be the album Heritage. This was the second album that Opeth made without any growls, completely clean vocals, but this one is much more hard rock than Damnation, and there's a lot of variety. So I feel like a Jethro Tull fan would find it really easy to enjoy the Heritage album too. Number 3, now this is an album that does contain growls, but the reason why I recommend Garden of the Titans, their live album from Red Rocks, is that it shows the different sides of the band. You get the growl material, the death metal influence material, but then you also get a lot of the softer, more progressive style that characterizes later Opeth. Speaking from my own personal experience, Garden of the Titans was my way into appreciating death metal, really at all. Like Opeth were the first band, and to a lesser extent, Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum were the first bands that kind of got me into this style. And I think that if you're still on the fence, you're not quite appreciating the death metal growl yet, the Garden of the Titans is a really good entry point when you're starting to get beyond the softer, more progressive albums. So number 4 is Sorceress, and this is an album that is not universally loved, and I think it's down to the mix, but the band have announced plans to release a remix of it. So I'm really looking forward to it. But the material on it is fantastic. And there's a lot of this material that's on Garden of the Titans and is better performed live. But the reason why this is on the list is that Michael and Frederick, the guitarists of Opeth, have said in interviews that the Stormwatch record from Jethro Tull influenced Sorceress, specifically the song Will of the Wisp, which if you listen to that, if you're aware of the song Dunringell, it's going to sound familiar to you. So I feel like this is an easy Opeth album to grasp for Tull fans. I just wouldn't necessarily listen to this one first. I would check out those 3 higher on the list before getting to that one. My final suggestion for Jethro Tull fans looking to explore Opeth more is the album Ghost Reveries. And this album is definitely one foot in the death metal genre still. But it contains 2 or 3 of the band's most iconic tracks, specifically Ghost of Perdition. Now, there is a great version of Ghost of Perdition on Garden of the Titans, but I like the Ghost Reveries record a lot because you also get Bang of the Hounds, which might be even better than Ghost of Perdition. But the whole middle stretch of the album is starting to explore more diverse textures. It almost turns into kind of a Sgt. Pepper Beatlesy feel for a little while before we slam headlong back into, I guess what you'd call melodic death metal. But I would recommend this once you're ready to explore those more extreme vocal styles. I think this is one of the best examples of those kind of vocals, harsh vocals in music, while still retaining a kind of classic rock sound to a lot of songs, especially like Bang of the Hounds. You could almost, if you took the growls away, it could be like a great classic rock song or classic prog song. Okay, that's my list. 5-ish recommendations for Opeth fans and 5 Opeth recommendations for Jethro Tull fans. If you do get a chance to check these out, please let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear your response. Thank you once again for checking it out. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to hear more updates from me. I'm going to be covering the JETHRO TULL Christmas album very soon, and I also think it would be nice to do more Opeth content in the future. So stick around. More fun stuff coming. All right, see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.